Shane Porter had exactly $4 in his wallet when the woman at the next table started choking on a piece of steak. He didn't think. He moved. "Hey, she's choking." Someone yelled, standing back in panic. But Shane was already around the table, his 5-year-old son, Noah, staring wide-eyed from their booth with a half-eaten grilled cheese clutched in his small hands. The woman, tall, elegant, in a crisp white blouse that probably cost more than Shane's entire outfit, was coughing violently, her hands clawing at her throat. Her eyes were wide with terror, her face flushed deep red. "Ma'am, I've got you," Shane said, voice calm but firm as he positioned himself behind her and started the Heimlich. 1, 2 on the third thrust, the chunk of steak shot out and clattered onto her plate. She staggered forward, gasping, coughing, gripping the edge of the table. Shane steadied her. "You okay?" She looked up, breathless, her eyes glassy with shock. And somehow, even with her makeup slightly smudged and her hair falling out of its sleek twist, she looked beautiful. I think so," she said hoarsely. The manager rushed over. "Ma'am, do you need an ambulance?" "No," she wheezed, then turned to Shane. "Thank you, you just saved my life." He gave a quick nod. "Glad you're all right." And just like that, he walked back to his table, slid into the booth across from Noah, who was now holding his juice box like it was sacred. "You saved her, Daddy," Noah whispered. Shane ruffled his hair. "Yeah, guess I did." Across the restaurant, the woman was still catching her breath, but her eyes never left Shane. Outside, the sidewalk was slick with spring rain. Shane lifted Noah into his arms as they stepped onto the curb. He didn't notice the woman from inside had followed them out until her heels clicked up behind him. "Wait," she called. Shane turned. "You really okay?" She nodded, then held out a card. "You didn't even ask for anything. Most people would have filmed it or walked away." He looked at the card. "Anastasia Dalton, CEO, Dalton Worldwide Technologies." He blinked. "You're a CEO." "Yes," she said, a little amused. "And you're a hero." He gave a short laugh, pocketing the card. "I'm just a dad, not a hero. We were here for the kids' menu," she smiled. "Still, let me repay you. Lunch." "Dinner?" Shane glanced at Noah. "I don't really do fancy." "Then let me show you what fancy looks like," she said, eyes locked on his. "Please." 2 days later, Shane stood awkwardly in front of a hotel restaurant that had a valet and a chandelier bigger than his entire kitchen. He wore his best shirt clean, ironed, with only one frayed cuff, and held Noah's hand tight. Anastasia was waiting inside. She looked nothing like the woman who'd nearly died. Tonight she was relaxed, radiant, in a navy dress that hugged her curves just right. Her smile was soft when she saw them. "Shane, Noah." She bent down. "Hi there, little man." Noah peeked up at her shyly. "Hi." She led them to a private dining room, the kind with gold trim and a view of the city skyline. Shane tried not to gawk. "You didn't have to do all this," he muttered once they were seated. "A burger would have done fine." Anastasia poured him wine anyway. "You saved my life. The least I can do is feed you something that doesn't come with a plastic toy." Shane chuckled. "Fair." The conversation flowed more easily than he expected. She asked about his job, construction, mostly small gigs, and he explained how he was raising Noah alone after his wife passed 3 years ago. He didn't share much, but she listened like every word mattered. "What about you?" he asked. She shrugged. "Work is intense. I run a billion-dollar tech company. I'm surrounded by people all day, but most of them want something from me." He looked at her, really looked. "And I didn't." "You didn't even ask my name," she said quietly. "You just saw someone in trouble and helped." Noah was dozing in the booth beside them by dessert. Anastasia gently placed a soft blanket over him. Where had that even come from? Shane stared. "You carry a blanket." I had a feeling he might get sleepy. He looked at her, eyes narrowed. "Why are you really doing this?" She met his gaze, unflinching. "Because since that night, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." He laughed under his breath. "I'm broke. I work odd jobs. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. And I live in a penthouse with a view of the skyline," she said, smiling. "But neither of those things tell us anything about the kind of people we are." He stared at her. "You're serious?" Yes. For the first time in years, Shane felt something shift in his chest, a flicker of something warm, dangerous, hope. The next week, she showed up at the construction site where Shane was working. She wore jeans and sneakers, her hair tied back, and handed him a smoothie like it was no big deal. "Thought you could use a break," she said. His coworkers stared. One of them elbowed him. "Dude, who is that?" "Long story," Shane muttered, taking the smoothie. She stayed for 15 minutes, asking about his work, laughing at his jokes, and somehow making the dirt and noise around them feel like a scene out of a movie. When she left, Shane watched her go, heart pounding. Later that night, as he tucked Noah in, his son whispered, "Daddy." "Yeah, bud, do you like her?" Shane paused. "Yeah, I think I do." Noah smiled sleepily. "She likes you too." He didn't know how his 5-year-old was smarter than him, but the next time Anastasia called, he didn't hesitate. "Yes, I'd like to see you again." 3 weeks after that night in the restaurant, Shane leaned against the railing of her penthouse balcony, looking out over the city lights. Anastasia came up behind him barefoot, holding 2 glasses of wine. "I still can't believe this," he admitted, taking the glass. "What? That you're here, that I'm here, that this, us, is even real." She stepped closer, resting her hand against his chest. "It's real." He turned to face her. "I don't have anything to offer you. You offered me your heart when you didn't even know who I was. And now that I do," she smiled. "Now you're scared, terrified." She took his hand. "Then let's be terrified together." He kissed her. And for the first time in years, Shane Porter felt like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. The invitation came unexpectedly, hand-delivered to Shane's apartment by a uniformed driver who looked like he belonged outside Buckingham Palace. Noah was coloring dinosaurs at the coffee table when Shane opened the thick envelope. "Daddy, what's that?" "I'm not sure yet." Inside was a crisp ivory card with engraved lettering. Anastasia was hosting a charity gala at the Langford Hotel, black tie, 7 o'clock. She wanted him there. He stared at the card longer than necessary. "Is it a party?" Noah asked. "Something like that." "You gonna go?" Shane looked down at his work boots and worn jeans. "I don't think I have anything to wear." That night, while Noah slept, Shane called his sister, who lived 2 blocks over. She agreed to watch Noah for the evening. The next morning, he borrowed a suit from his brother-in-law. It was a little loose around the shoulders, but it would do. Saturday arrived fast. The Langford gleamed under the city's golden hour glow as Shane stepped out of the black car Anastasia had arranged for him. He hesitated before walking in, running a hand over his neatly combed hair. Inside, the ballroom looked like something from a royal wedding. Crystal chandeliers dazzled above a marble floor. String musicians played near the champagne fountain. No one looked even remotely uncomfortable in their clothes except him. Then he saw her. Anastasia stood near the grand staircase, conversing with a man in a tuxedo who held a tumbler of whiskey like it was part of his DNA. Her gown was deep sapphire, elegant and understated, but it was the way she looked at Shane when she spotted him that made the room tilt. "You came," she said, coming toward him. "I still don't know why." "Because I wanted you here. You sure about that?" he asked, glancing at the crowd. "I'm pretty sure. I passed 3 hedge fund managers and someone who owns an island. I don't care about any of them." "Yeah, but they care about you. I heard someone call you the queen of digital commerce." "That one's new," she said, eyes twinkling. "I'll add it to the list." "Why did you ask me here, really?" She glanced past him, then nodded toward the terrace. "Let's talk where it's quiet." Outside, the air was cooler. The city stretched below them in sparking silhouettes. Shane leaned against the stone railing, arms crossed. "I needed to see if it could work," she said. "What could?" "This." She turned to face him, her expression open. "You and me, outside of that restaurant, outside of your apartment or my office, in my world." He didn't look at her right away. "It's not my world, I know. I don't know how to talk to these people. I don't even know what half of them do for a living. They don't matter. They do to you." "No," she said carefully. "My company matters, my work matters, but the people. Most of them would throw each other under a bus for a better stock option. You're the first person I've met in years who doesn't want anything from me." He exhaled, tension still sitting on his shoulders. "I'm trying, Anna. But I feel like I don't fit into your life." "Maybe you don't have to," she said. "Maybe I can fit into yours." He turned to look at her then, truly look. "You trade penthouses and galas for broken cabinet doors and cereal for dinner. I've had everything money can buy since I was 22. but no one ever made me feel the way you do when you're reading to your son or laughing at something dumb on TV. I don't want to be a project. You're not. And I don't want Noah to get attached if this is just fun for you. She stepped closer, voice lower. It's not fun, it's terrifying. Because I finally found someone who doesn't care about my company or my name, and I don't want to mess it up. He studied her face. Don't lie to me. I won't. And don't disappear when this gets hard. I'll be right here. Back inside, the gala was in full swing. Anastasia was pulled away momentarily by a board member, leaving Shane near the silent auction. He was studying a framed vintage baseball jersey when a man approached him. "You're the one she brought," the man said, sipping champagne. "Interesting choice." Shane didn't respond. "I mean, she's had senators and venture capitalists hanging off her heels. But you're what construction?" Shane turned to him slowly. "You got a problem with that," the man gave a short laugh. "Not at all, I just hope you know what you're doing." Dalton women don't exactly go slumming for long. Before Shane could reply, Anastasia returned. Her eyes flicked between the two men. "Everything okay here? Perfect," Shane said, jaw tight. The man raised his glass and walked off. Anastasia frowned. "What did he say?" "Nothing I haven't heard before." She stepped closer. "Don't let them get to you. It's not about me, it's about Noah. I don't want him around people who look at him like he doesn't belong. Then they're the ones who don't belong." He looked at her, the weight of the room pressing in. "I need to think," she nodded. "Okay." He left before dessert. Back at the apartment, Noah was asleep on the couch, his small hand clutched around a toy truck. Shane sat beside him, the night's noise still echoing in his chest. He didn't know where this thing with Anastasia was going. But the way she'd looked at him tonight like he was the only real thing in the room, that wasn't something he could forget. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one risking something. Shane stood in the kitchen, staring at the plate of scrambled eggs that had gone cold. Noah was humming to himself at the table, building a tower out of juice boxes, oblivious to the storm churning in his father's head. He hadn't heard from Anastasia in 5 days. Not a call, not a knock, not even a note. He knew he'd left the gala abruptly, maybe too abruptly, but he hadn't expected silence. Not from her, not after everything. The doorbell rang just as he was rinsing his mug in the sink. He glanced at the clock. Too early for his sister, too late for deliveries. He opened the door to find a woman about his age, dressed in a crisp navy pantsuit, holding a sleek leather folder. "Shane Porter," he nodded cautiously. "I'm Miranda Cho. I work with Miss Dalton." His stomach clenched. "Is she all right?" "She's fine," Miranda said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "But she's currently in Geneva for a last-minute board presentation. She asked me to deliver this personally." She handed him the folder. Inside was a single-page document and a key card. "She's offering you a short-term contract, project management, full pay, benefits, flexible hours so you can be with your son." Shane stared at the proposal. "Why? You've got 20 years of hands-on experience." She looked into your work. "Your last 3 site leads gave glowing references." "That doesn't answer my question." Miranda adjusted her sleeve. "She believes in rewarding people who show integrity. That's rare where we're from." He closed the folder slowly. "This isn't charity." "No," Miranda said. "It's a door. You get to decide if you want to walk through it." She turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, she didn't want to leave the country without seeing you, but this deal, she fought for it. Hard. After she left, Shane sat on the couch, the folder unopened again on his lap. Noah climbed up beside him. "Is that homework?" "No, buddy, it's something else." Noah leaned his head on his shoulder. "You miss her." Shane closed his eyes. "Yeah, I do." That night, he stayed up rereading the offer. He paced. He ran numbers in his head. And finally, just after midnight, he made a decision. 3 days later, he stepped into the downtown office of Dalton Technologies. The lobby was all glass and brushed steel, with a massive installation of suspended circuitry hanging from the ceiling. A receptionist directed him to the 22nd floor. He wasn't given a corner office, but it didn't matter. The space was clean, the equipment state-of-the-art, and his team respected him without needing to be impressed. Anastasia didn't call. But one of the assistants left a note on his desk by the end of the first week. "I didn't want to pressure you. I just wanted to make it easier for you to say yes. I'm back soon." He carried the note in his wallet. 6 days later, she walked into the site inspection unannounced. He was standing with 2 architects, reviewing structural changes, when she appeared beside him in a tailored coat and low heels, holding a folder of her own. The silence that followed was thick. "You look tired," she said. "New job," he replied, not looking at her directly. "Good thing your boss is understanding," he faced her then. "You disappeared. I gave you space. You could have said something. I didn't want you to think I was dangling an opportunity to buy your attention. You really think I'm that easy to buy?" "No," she said softly. "But I know how it feels to be underestimated." He folded his arms. "Then don't do it to me." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I didn't bring you here to control you, Shane. I brought you here because I couldn't stand the idea of watching you fade into the background of my life." One of the architects cleared his throat awkwardly and walked away. Shane looked at her, expression unreadable. "You're not used to being told no. I'm not used to having to explain myself." "Well, welcome to the rest of us," he said, exhaling. She reached into her folder and pulled out a photograph. It was of a property listing an empty lot near the river. "I bought this yesterday," she said. "I want to build something real, something new." "What does that have to do with me? I want you to design it." "Why? Because you build things that last. I want that." He took the photo, studying it. "I don't know if I trust you." "I'll earn it," she said. "One decision at a time." He looked up. "And if I say no, I'll still want you," she said quietly, "but I'll hate myself for not trying harder." The words settled like dust in the sun. He didn't reply, not then. But later that evening, as he watched Noah asleep under a blanket on the couch, Shane pulled out the photograph again. The property sat empty, waiting. The next morning, he walked into Anastasia's office. "I'll design it," he said, "but we do it my way." She stood slowly. "Deal?" He turned to leave. "Shane," he paused in the doorway, "don't make me wait much longer." He didn't answer, but the door didn't close behind him either. The building was nothing but steel bones and scaffolding when Anastasia stepped onto the lot on a wind-whipped Thursday morning. Shane was already there, clipboard in hand, directing a team as they maneuvered a beam into place. He didn't see her right away, but when he did, he gave a single nod, then returned to the plan in front of him. No tension. No hesitation. She walked toward him, stepping carefully over uneven ground. "You're early," he said, eyes still scanning the blueprint. "I couldn't wait." He finally looked up. "You brought your boots this time," left the heels in the car. He passed her a hard hat. "Then you can stay." They didn't speak much for the next hour. She watched as he coordinated the crew, his voice steady, his posture relaxed but precise. It was a different version of him, one she hadn't seen before. This wasn't Shane the single father or Shane the reluctant dinner guest. This was a man in control of his craft. When they finally broke for lunch, she handed him a thermos. "Soup. I made it." He raised a brow. "You cook?" "I watched a video. It was labeled beginner-friendly." He took a sip, winced slightly, then grinned. "It's edible." "I'll take that as a win." They sat on overturned crates, the city skyline slanting behind them. "I've been thinking about something," she said, twisting the thermos lid between her fingers. "Go on." "When this project is done, I don't want it to be the end of us working together." He set the thermos down. "What are you saying?" "I want to invest in something with you." He tilted his head. "I'm not looking for a handout, I know, but I am offering a partnership, 50-50. You choose the designs, I handle the business. We build things that matter." He exhaled slowly, gaze fixed on the gravel. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." He didn't answer immediately, just watched a crane lift part of a frame into the sky like it weighed nothing. "And what if it fails?" he said finally. "Then we fail together." That night, he didn't go home right away. His sister had Noah, and for once, he wasn't rushing to beat the dinner clock. Instead, he drove to the edge of the harbor, where the water slapped against the piers and the lights of the city shimmered like coins. He stood there for almost an hour, thinking about everything: the moment in the restaurant, the gala, the silence, the note, the offer, the blueprint, the soup. And her. He didn't knock when he got to her penthouse. He used the keycard she'd given him days ago, the one he hadn't acknowledged until now. Anastasia looked up from the couch, startled, barefoot, holding a mug of tea. "I didn't expect you," she said. I didn't expect you either, he replied, stepping inside. She stood, setting the mug down. Is everything okay? He stepped toward her, stopping just shy of touching. I want the partnership, her breath caught. You do? Yes, but not just the business. All of it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box worn, not new, but carefully kept. This was my mother's, he said. She wore it until the day she passed. She told me to save it for the woman who made me feel like home. Anastasia stared at the box, her voice caught in her throat. Shane, I'm not asking for an answer tonight, I just need you to know where I stand. She opened the box with trembling fingers. Inside sat a delicate ring, simple, elegant, with a single diamond that shimmered under the soft lighting. You didn't have to give me this, she whispered. I didn't have to save your life either, but I did, and you saved mine right back. She looked up at him, eyes glassy. This isn't the life I pictured, me neither. But I want it. He reached for her hand. Then let's build it. 3 months later, they stood hand in hand beneath a white archway overlooking the river, family and a few close friends gathered under strings of lights. Noah held the rings and beamed with pride from his place at the front. The ceremony was quiet, heartfelt. No press, no investors, just promises. When Shane said, I do, he meant every word. When Anastasia kissed him, it wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was the beginning of something better. They didn't ride off into a sunset. They walked slowly down the aisle to the sound of laughter and clapping, their fingers interlaced, their hearts steady. And behind them, a little boy ran to catch up, arms wide, ready to follow them wherever they went. The glass doors of the new development office slid open with a gentle hiss as Anastasia stepped in, her heels clicking softly against the polished concrete. The space still smelled faintly of sawdust and fresh paint. Framed blueprints lined the walls, and a large wooden table stretched across the center, cluttered with models and sketches. Shane stood at the far end, sleeves rolled up, pencil tucked behind one ear, deep in discussion with one of the junior architects. He glanced up when he saw her and gave a nod, not out of habit, but welcome. You're early, he said, walking toward her. You say that like I haven't been waiting all morning to see this place. He gestured around them. It's finally coming together. It looks better than I pictured. She touched the edge of the table. The grain in this wood, it's from that reclaimed lumber yard you insisted on, isn't it? Yeah, had to argue with procurement for a week. They thought laminate would be faster. You're impossible when you want something, he leaned in slightly. You didn't seem to mind when I wanted you. She didn't step back. I still don't. The moment was interrupted by a voice from the hallway. Dad? Noah rushed in, arms wide, a science project clutched in one hand and his backpack bouncing behind him. Shane caught him easily, lifting him up in one fluid motion. Whoa, buddy, what's the occasion? Miss Halpern said we could bring our projects to show our families. I told her you were an architect now and that you could explain how bridges don't fall down. Anastasia laughed softly. That's a lot of pressure. Shane set Noah down. Good thing I'm overqualified. They gathered around one of the smaller desks while Noah proudly displayed his popsicle stick bridge. It wobbled but held steady, and Shane walked him through weight distribution and tension with a patience Anastasia couldn't look away from. When Noah was done beaming under their praise, he tugged at her sleeve. You said we could go to the park after this. I did, she said, and I keep my promises. Shane ruffled his son's hair. Let me finish up here, I'll meet you both there. She hesitated. You sure? Yeah. I like showing up last. Makes my entrance more dramatic. At the park, Anastasia sat on a bench while Noah darted between the swings and monkey bars. A breeze lifted her hair as she watched him chase a red kite another child had let go. The laughter echoing through the trees reminded her of summer evenings she used to spend alone, the kind that used to stretch long and empty. Not anymore. Shane arrived half an hour later holding paper cones of cotton candy. One blue, one pink. Which one's for me? She asked. You can have both. I'm just here to make poor nutritional choices. She took the pink and leaned against him. You know, I used to think I had everything. You did. You just didn't know what to do with it. And now you know how to share it. She looked up at him, sunlight catching the edge of his jaw. You're not afraid anymore. Of what? Of not fitting in, he turned to her. I didn't need to. You built a space around me. They didn't speak for a few moments. The park buzzed with children's voices, rustling leaves, and the faint chime of an ice cream truck in the distance. "I talked to the board yesterday," she said quietly. "I told them I'm stepping back," his eyebrows lifted. "Really? Not quitting, just shifting. Less time in the tower, more time here, with you, with him. You sure they'll go for that?" They didn't have a choice. "I own 51%, he laughed, full and open. "I should have known. You married a woman who negotiates mergers in under 30 minutes. What did you expect?" He wrapped an arm around her. "Exactly this." Noah ran over, face flushed with excitement. "Can we get a dog?" Shane and Anastasia exchanged a glance. "We'll talk about it," Shane said. "That means yes," Noah yelled, already racing back to the playground. Anastasia shook her head. "You're going to cave, aren't you?" "I'm already looking up dog names." Later that evening, back at their house, a craftsman-style home on a quiet street they'd renovated together, Shane stood on the back porch, watching the sky turn the color of cooled embers. Anastasia joined him barefoot, her head resting on his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how it started?" she asked. "All the time. If you hadn't walked over that night, I would have found you another way." She tilted her head. "You think so? I know so. Because I wasn't meant to just save your life that night, Anna. I was meant to be in it." She didn't say anything for a while, just held his hand, her thumb tracing the back of his knuckles. "I used to think love had to look a certain way," she said softly. "A power couple, a perfect image. But real love, it's messy, it's loud, it shows up in work boots and drives a dented truck." "Hey," he said, pretending to be offended. She smiled. "I love every dent," and he believed her. Because she had seen all of him, the man, the father, the builder, and never once asked him to be anything else. That night, while Noah slept upstairs with a flashlight still glowing under his blanket, Shane and Anastasia curled up on the couch. The TV flickered with some old movie neither of them was really watching. Her feet rested in his lap. His hand found her wrist, holding it gently, like a promise. Their world wasn't built in a day. It had come together one moment at a time, a rescue, a dinner, a chance, a blueprint, a kiss, a vow. Now it was home, and every second of it was theirs.